Hello everybody, my name is Track94 and welcome to my Minecraft Modpack Stoneblock Let's Play world. This is crazy. This world I've spent a good 15 days working on this world and I have been having so much fun with this mod pack. So I want to show you guys what I've built so far. I've completed the mod pack. I've done everything that is required to call this mod pack complete. But I still want to show you guys what I've done just so you guys know what I've been working on, and I think you guys are going to find it really cool. So let's start off by showing you guys my bedroom. This is kind of where I just AFK whenever I'm not playing actively in the world. Here's my bed. This is where I keep all of my old tools and things. As I move forward in the mod pack, I got better and better tools. So I've just slowly but surely gotten more powerful in the game. Notably, though, you'll look in my hotbar and you say, well, what are all these tools you have in your hotbar? Well, these are the tools that I'm currently using. These are all my endgame tools. So I'm using Draconic Armor from the Draconic Evolution mod. This armor is very OP. In my opinion, it's the best armor in the game. Even though it doesn't make you 100% invincible, you have so much health. Like this health bar down here tells you how much health you have. So I really enjoy using this armor. It has all kinds of cool things. It allows you to work more efficiently. I also have my favorite sword here. It's not the most powerful sword in the game, actually. The most powerful sword in this mod pack is the Sword of the Cosmos, which I have made. I will show you guys. But I'm just showing you guys some of my tools that I've used before I made all of the Avaricia mod tools. So I'm expecting that some of you already know what some of this stuff is, because there's quite a bit to this mod pack, and I encourage you to look into it yourself if you want to find out more. But here is my Paxel. It's an axe, a pick, a shovel, all in one. It's very useful. I don't have to have a whole bunch of tools. This is my bow that I use. This is my wireless crafting grid that I use to connect to my refined storage network. Anywhere that I have wireless reception, I can access my refined storage network and get whatever is inside of it at the access to my fingertips, which is very nice. I also have these two pouches. It's very cumbersome to go through the wireless crafting grid all the time to get resources, so this is a pouch full of just the common things that I use all the time, nicely organized. And then this is where I keep all of my extra tools. So any tools that I might need, I always have them ready to me in this pouch. And of course I have my portable teleporter, which I can use to get all over the world. I have multiple locations I like to teleport to sometimes. I have like the wither area, mining, farming, kitchen. Again, you guys will see all of this in due time. And then lastly, I have my flux magnet, which I use for picking up items whenever I'm harvesting, and my transmutation tablet, which is like an endgame tablet that allows you to basically get anything you want in the game. So I just type right here what I'm looking for. Let's say I want let's see if I want a cookie. Okay, so here we go, cookies. I have tons of EMC. I have 1.1 trillion EMC available to me. So I'll just give myself a cookie. And there you go. And if I don't want it anymore, I can just put it right back into it and it burns it back into EMC. So I can make pretty much anything I want in the game that has EMC values. Obviously not everything in the game has an EMC value. So that kind of stuff you just have to make normally. So that's just kind of a rough recap of the ideas behind this mod pack, but I'm actually going to show you now what's actually in the mod pack. So this is my main area. This is where everything started. This is my refined storage network where I can access all my terminals and everything, see what's crafting. This is where I store everything. This is my crafting area for all the Avaricia mod items. As you can see, I've already got into the infinity tools. So I have the Sword of the Cosmos, Longbow of the Heavens, all the Avaricia mod tools. This is all stuff you need to have at the very end, like when you finish the mod pack. So that's just to give you an idea of what I've been working on. This is where I keep some of the materials I need for the Avaricia mod. This is my transmutation table right here. All kinds of good stuff here. So this area over here is my miscellaneous single-use items. So if I just need to craft a whole bunch of one single item and I need a specific machine to do it, then that's where I'll put it over here. I don't really automate a lot of the things around here, but it's always nice to have access to these things. So as you can see, this is kind of where everything happens. This is my RF Tools Dimensions area. I have dimension builders here, and I have all kinds of cool dimensions that I've made just to kind of experiment and play around with different things. As you can see, I've made a number of them. But they're all very nice to have. You can access lots of resources. If you need a lot of a specific resource, you can make an RF Tools dimension for it, which I'll get to later. You'll see some of the cool things I've done with it. This over here is my mob farm. It looks like it's all lit up, but that's because I have night vision with my draconic armor. But as you can see, this is like the very first. In fact, I don't think I've ever upgraded this. This is my my original mob farm that I made to get resources early on in the game, and it just uses standard fan format. And it pushes the mobs into this grinder, and then there's a mob crusher down there which kills them and gives me their items. I don't really get too much use out of this because most of my items now come from these spawners that I've made, which produce all of the items I could possibly need. And then all the items go down here where they get sorted. Anything I want to keep gets sorted in this drawers mod storage network, and then anything else gets either recycled or sent to my recycling system, which this turns it into loot bags, and this turns it into EMC. So over here is my patient bag opening system. I don't really know why I put so much effort into making this system. In all actuality, patient bags are pretty useless, if you know what I'm talking about. They do give you nether stars, but you have to open them so many times, and it's just a waste of time in my opinion, so I would probably just throw these away in the future. But this is something I kind of worked on because I needed nether stars in mid-game, and I needed a lot of them. So this is my recycling system. Anything I don't want can be recycled here and turned into useful resources. This is really important in the early game when I needed leather or whatever these items would give me. I would always sort them out using these item duct filters and then get turned into their respective resources. So I was very much resource and efficiency oriented in the beginning of the game, but now that I'm at the end game, I really don't need any of this anymore. It's kind of useless now because I have EMC, and anything I could really need is at my fingertips now. But it's nice to see kind of a history of how things went. Up here is my wither cage, and as you can see, I am generating multiple withers, and they are being destroyed by mob crushers that you can't see. And I need to turn off my flexo magnet, or else I'm going to keep picking up items. But as you can see, it kills the withers, and then their items are absorbed down here. So this sound muffler makes it so your eardrums are not exploding. But you have these two mob crushers that kill the withers. This is the death muffler, which basically makes it so that the withers don't actually produce the boss bar at the top. This is the wither builder from the Industrial Foregoing mod. This builds withers using soul sand and wither skeleton skulls. And up here is a much more complicated spawning system. This is the RF Tools spawner. And if anybody knows what this is, it's a very, very useful tool. It requires a lot of resources to get it working. But if you have the resources, it's very fast. So basically what it does is I take a wither, you punch it with a syringe, you get essence, and then you can build withers using that essence. And you get a net positive result out of it. So yes, you have to supply it with nether stars, and you supply it with soul sand and potatoes or whatever organic material you want. In my case, I gave it wheat, and it'll use those resources to build the wither, and it'll place it down here. And when you kill the wither, you get one nether star, but it only requires a tenth of a nether star to build the wither, so you get a net positive in nether stars, as long as you provide it with a ton of resources. So, as you can see, this wither builder is very useful. So this is how I get all of my nether stars. I get quite a few. I don't get a ton per minute, but over time they definitely add up. As you can see, currently I have 10,000 nether stars available to me, so this is just an example of one of the things I automated early on. It's been very useful. Here's the top of that spawner that I showed you previously that spawns wither skeletons. It's actually the same system as the wither builder. I built this one first so I could get wither skeleton skulls, but then I found out you could just make the withers directly, so that's what I started doing. Okay, so now let's get to the actually really interesting stuff here. As you can see, there's a mess of different contraptions and machines out here, all of which have a specific purpose. The most important one, I believe, is this area over here with all these drawers. It's very laggy over here because there's tons of items moving around. But basically, what this is it's a collection of commonly used crafting materials that I use. I always like to have a little bit of every crafting material available in my network so I can craft things very quickly and have anything I could want at my fingertips. The basic premise of this system is I have a whole bunch of machines and crafting systems all connected to this impulse item duct, and these impulse item ducts are all connected to these retrievers, and the retrievers basically keep these cubbies full of their specific resource, and then whenever they do get full, then the retriever will stop pulling. The items will just kind of sit here and be ready to be pulled whenever there needs to be more. So if I, for example, request item ducts right here, you're going to see that it's going to refill itself automatically from this system. These chests right here are basically a backlog. Any extra items that would have gone into here, but then that runs out of space, would go into here temporarily, and this is where it would pull any extra items. So that's kind of how you get around the whole item duct problem where it oversends items. All of this is connected to my refined storage network, so the refined storage network is connected to this system as well. So for example, if I have a recipe that requires pistons and construction cores or whatever I might need, then it will pull those items from here, and then it can craft them anywhere in the network that's connected to the system. So this system is self-looping in the sense that it uses its own resources to make more items. For example, snowballs are made in a separate part of this machine over here. This is the snowball making machine right over here. And these snowballs are used by the refined storage network all over the place. So it's actually very, very good to have refined storage connected to everything because it makes it very easy to automate things like this. Over here is the auto sieve system. Basically, it creates resources using cobblestone generators, and then it breaks them down into gravel, dirt, sand, and finally dust. And then that stuff is sieved through these auto sieves. In some cases, I needed to do just gravel because I was looking for a specific resource, or I was doing just sand. As you can see, I'm sieving dust here, sand here, gravel here, and then these ones I'm sieving gravel. And there's more above me as well right here. And this is my primary source of minerals and ores for a very long time. Basically, in this mod pack, there's Ex Nihilo Creatio, which is a mod that lets you sieve things like dust, dirt, and sand into small amounts of resources. And then those resources get pumped out, and they get sent into my storage system. This storage system is very old. It existed before the refined storage network was even built, and then I built it in such a way that you could connect the refined storage network to it. As you can see, everything's connected with external storage buses. I also keep deposits of dust because I need dust in order to create alloys. And then I use these compacting drawers, which are very useful for basically turning ingots into blocks or to nuggets. I really, really love the storage drawers mod because it adds so many cool things to this world. It's really nice to have. And as you can see over here, I have iron, steel, and then I have coal and coal dust, or charcoal and charcoal dust being made up here too. So there's pretty much any resource I could need is available here. Of course, all this stuff has been superseded by my newer systems, which rely upon EMC and upon the void miners, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. Back here is my resource generation. I have a very similar setup to what you just saw with the auto sieves and the auto hammers breaking down the resources into their respective ones. And so I have, for example, dust, sand, clay, glass, all these resources that I need, they're all made here. I needed tons and tons of glass, so I actually made a system that creates sand using igneous extruders with a caustic deposition modifier or augment that basically directly creates the sand rather than having to break it down. And then it all gets sent into this ultimate furnace, which is super duper fast, and it will fill up this thing faster than it can make sand. So these are all very, very useful systems to have. This right here, this ender chest with all the resonant servos pointing out of it, is my cobblestone generation system. Basically, I would pump cobblestone into here, and then it would all dump the cobblestone into this crafter. And the crafter would produce compressed cobblestone. And it can actually go all the way to octuple compressed, but it takes a very long time to get to without added resources. But as you can see, I have septuple compressed cobblestone, and below it I have a cobblestone generator, which is like the highest tier, pointing into it, and it just directly inputs the items, and they get compressed. So this is basically a way of recycling cobblestone, and of course getting access to compressed cobblestone right over here. This system over here makes knitter from sand and sandstone. This system over here takes sugarcane from the sugarcane farm, and it stores the sugarcane, makes paper, and it makes soul sand. Now, you might be asking, how in the world do you make soul sand from sugarcane? Well, it's actually an interesting process. You take the sugarcane, you turn it into sugar, and then you combine it with dark sugar, which is sugar made with wither dust, which comes from wither skeletons. And you can combine it with the sugar to make dark sugar, and then you combine the dark sugar with more sugar to make more dark sugar. So it's like a self-creating loop, if you will. And then that dark sugar gets fed back into itself so it can make more, and then it gets fed over here to this crafter, which combines sand and dark sugar into soul sand. And then that soul sand is then taken and is pumped to these auto sieves, and then the auto sieves sieve the soul sand and turn it into nether quartz, gas tiers, and the nether quartz that's extra will get smelted down into silicon. So this is a very creative way of creating silicon, nether quartz, soul sand, paper, sugarcane, anything you could really need. It's all here, which is really incredible. And all of this is operating on just these two sugarcane farms powered by a harvester from Cyclic. Cyclic Mod has lots of useful machines that you can use to help craft things. Over here I have some machinery that turns various different types of experience into essence. Essence is used for all kinds of useful things, like turning snowballs into blitz powder. Basically, it's a way of automating the creation of certain things. I also have a wither skeleton skull maker here, and you can also do the same with wither souls. So it's a way of reusing some of the items from the wither skeleton farm and from the wither farm. Over here is my farms. I have cows, sheep, chickens, pigs, and rabbits here. They all get bred in this machine right here using the animal feeder. And then once they become a baby, when a baby is produced, this baby sorter puts it into the killing area, and then the killing area has many different animal growers and slaughtering systems to kill the animals. I have two different slaughtering systems. I have the mob slaughter factory, which makes pink slime, and pink slime is used a lot in Industrial Foregoing. And then I also have just a regular mob crusher if I want to get their items. And right now I'm using the mob crusher, and I can get all these items from the farm, as you can see here. And of course sometimes I get the occasional sheep trophy, so I'll make sure to put that over here. Cool. This is the pink slime killing area. This is where the pink slime buckets are placed by these fluid placers, and then when they turn into little pink slimes, they get killed and turned into pink slime. Pretty straightforward. This right here is my environmental tech nanobot system. Basically, it is a beacon that will affect my player anywhere I go. So I could be in a different dimension, and I'll still have these status effects. This is like the highest tier one you can make. And basically, you give it these modifiers which give you specific powers. So, for example, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 resistance modifiers, so my character gets resistance 5, as you can see here. So I have night vision from my draconic armor, water breathing from the nanobots, luck from the nanobots, strength from the nanobots, resistance, haste, fire resistance, and saturation. I really like saturation because I don't have to eat any food anymore. I'm just literally always full, no matter where I go. As long as these chunks are loaded, which I have them chunk loaded, I will always have those things. So this is very nice to have as far as like convenience when you're a late game. It's very nice to build one of these. Over here is my nature area. I have horses. I have all my Botania stuff over here. I never really got too far into the Botania mod. I only did exactly what I needed to do in order to complete the quests. So I never made any of like the Botania items, but I did, get into elven trading and the creation of mana, creation of runes, the basic things. I can get all the resources that I need to be able to complete all the Botania quests. Over here is a farm that I use to get bell pepper, spice leaf, and tomatoes. This is all used for the automation of Meat Feast pizzas, which were like my go-to food when I was in the middle of this mod pack. And then here's all the rice that I grow to make slime balls. Since there's really no slime chunks in this world, I have to use this to make slime rice balls. I can show you what that is later, but you get the idea. There's lots of farming and automation going on. This is my mega farm setup right here. So basically I produce rich slag, which gets turned into phytogrow, which is then energized and turned into fluxed phytogrow, and then that's fed to these phytogenic insulators, which is a thermal expansion machine that grows whatever seeds you give it with water and fertilizer. In this case, I'm growing wheat. I can also grow carrots. And what's really cool about this mod is there are resource seeds that you can make that will give you a specific resource. For example, this is an inferium seed farm, so it turns inferium seeds into inferium essence, and then that's used in mystical agriculture mod to make all kinds of useful things. And in this case, I'm making redstone essence using redstone seeds, which is then getting turned into redstone and then fed into my collection system. And up here I have ender lilies being made, turning them into ender pearls, and those ender pearls are getting stored down here. And this is all the things I'm producing, as you can see. Moving on, this is my second tree farm. I did not get enough from the first tree farm, so I made this one, and now I have more wood than I ever need. This is the tree farm. My first tree farm right here uses a forestry arboretum, which is a very old machine that works very well. And then down here is my ender farm, which basically makes coarse fruit for me to use. They're used in a couple of crafting recipes, but it's just a small farm that I like to have automated. Over here is the original farm I made. This is like the very first thing I made in this mod pack was this farm. And basically I went into Pam's Harvest Crops. I made this market, and I bought all the seeds from Pam's Harvest Crops, and I planted them. And as you can see, there are tons and tons of plants here that I'm automatically harvesting and everything. Whoops. So for example, we have green grapes. So many things in this mod pack that I still don't quite understand, but I have them, and they're being stored here in the system, and I have access to it, so there you go. Over here is a bonsai tree that I needed dragon fruit for some reason, so I made a hopping bonsai pot with a dragon fruit. And over here is tree fluid extractors pointed at block placers full of wood, and that basically gives me infinite rubber, and then I turn that rubber into plastic, and then I use the plastic for crafting things in industrial foregoing. It's very nice to have. As you can see here, I also make latex here too. So this is one of the cool things I've made. This is like one of the things I put a little bit of energy into. This is my kitchen. I love my kitchen. It's very nice. It's very beautiful. Basically, my kitchen is where I go to if I need to make anything from Pam's Harvest Crops. All the ingredients are here, as you can see. It's very nice, very beautiful. I have an auto milker here, so I have a cow that's connected to an autonomous activator, which milks the cow and gives me infinite milk. I also have these cow jars, but they're not quite fast enough for my demands. And then this is the Meat Feast Pizza automation system. So this is one of the coolest automatic machines that I ever made. Basically, it creates all of the ingredients you need to make a Meat Feast pizza. as you can see, there's quite a few ingredients because you need all kinds of meat, and you put them all together in this auto crafter. You make sausage, pepperoni, regular pizza, and then you combine them together and you get the Meat Feast pizza, which is a whole bunch of hunger haunches right there. It gives you 29 saturation and 12 and full bar of hunger, and it also gives you like strength and other things. This was a very, very OP food when I made it, and I'm glad I automated it because it was really fun. It was really cool. So this is one of the cool things in my mod pack that I really enjoyed doing. I tried to explore as many of the mods to the greatest extent that I possibly could, but there was just so much. There's so many mods I haven't even touched in the mod pack that I still need to work on. But this was really cool. I really enjoyed automating this. Over here is my nature area. I also went into Pam's Harvest Crops and I bought one of every sapling in the game, and I planted them over here in this big open area I made. Sorry about the lag spike. And as you can see, I'm growing pretty much every single item or crop in the game, which is really cool. I have pretty much anything I could want in this little orchard of mine. And of course I planted a few trees just for looks. So these are very nice to have. And then this, I was totally not expecting this, but I built a redwood tree. I had to look up how to do this, but it's apparently a 7x7 like area of redwood saplings. And then those get combined and you bone meal them and it grows into this massive tree. And so I was like, man, if I had known about this earlier in the game, I could have automated this and had so much wood, and I wouldn't have had to make those 2 wood farms. But, you know, it's just another learning thing. Lots of cool things in this mod pack I didn't even know about. Moving on, this right here is my Extreme Reactors reactor. It's pretty much the biggest reactor I could make. And it was very useful early game and mid game. Produced all of the RF I needed for a while. But then as I started getting into late game things like dimensions and whatnot, and environment and like beacons and everything like that, it needed so much RF that this just didn't cut it anymore. So I built this system over here. This is the rainbow generator, and if you don't know what that is, basically there are these generators created by extra utilities too. And if you put them all together and you power all of them constantly, then when you put a rainbow generator in the middle, the rainbow generator will use the power of all the generators around it, and it will produce like 25 million RF per tick, and that's way more RF than I ever need. Well, and not until the very end at least. And then the very end, like when I needed tons and tons of RF for my special dimension, which I'll show you later on, I needed these neutronium solar panels, which produce absurd amounts of power just to keep everything going. And as you can see, the system is very useful. It relies upon these cryostabilized flux ducts to move huge amounts of energy to all the resources I have on my base, which is really cool. I'm not going to go into detail about how all these machines work. You can definitely look it up for yourself, but this system is really cool to have. This over here is my neutronium collection system. Again, this is all late game. You need tons and tons of neutronium in order to make all of the Avaricia tools. And so basically you just have to place a bunch of these neutron collectors with collection systems. It gets easier once you get into EMC, because then you can turn EMC into the neutron collectors, and then you can use the tons and tons of these neutron collectors. I put them in a huge row together, and then you just hook them all together into your collection system. And as you can see, I have more neutronium than I'll ever need now. One of the secrets I discovered was you can use these specific pedestals with a, what is it called? A Watch of Flowing Time, which is basically a Project E item that increases the rate at which these neutronium collectors operate, because it basically increases the tick rate in this area. It's actually pretty cool, and it really speeds up these neutronium collectors. Like, this is average speed right here. You can see how it's very slowly ticking. And then this is with those watches. You can see that it's much faster. So having these watches really speeds things up and is really nice to have once you have the EMC to do it. So now I have more neutronium than I'll ever need. But this system basically produces tons and tons of neutronium. This over here is more machines. This is my Draconic Evolution fusion crafting system. I have actually multiple of these, but this is my main one that I use to craft items with Draconic Evolution. Above it is my mechanism gas and fluid creation system, I guess. It basically creates these HDPE sheets. Anyone who's played any of the complex mod packs would know these are. It's really annoying to make these. You have to like make all these chemicals, and you have to pump them through various machines, but you eventually get it. So it's a pretty straightforward system. It's definitely something you need to have in order to beat the game. Over here, I automate the production of energy condensers, which I use for my power flowers over there. In order to make energy condensers in this mod pack, they changed it so that you have to make these alchemical chests, and the recipe is really difficult. So you have to make like low covalence and medium covalence. Like you have to automate all these different items using these empowerers from Actually Additions. Over here is my energy collector and energy transmitter system. So this fusion crafting system makes energy condensers Mark 1, or energy collectors Mark 2 over here, and then Mark 3 is up here. And this is the highest tier energy collector you can make, and this up here is the Antimatter Relays, the highest tier you can make as well. And I take those items and I use them to build the system. One thing I noticed about this system was that these energy collectors are not particularly efficient. They're pretty slow, all things considered. So I have to make a ton of them in order to get enough EMC to do anything. Eventually I got to the point where I needed so much EMC that this just wasn't cutting it anymore. But in the meantime, like what I did was I made a mining turtle from Computercraft that actually built these for me, which I think is really cool. I like made a program in Lua that taught the mining turtle how to place each of these items and how to manage its inventory. This one glitched out because I left this dimension. It's not perfect, but basically you can create power flowers using this script that I made. If you guys are interested, leave a comment and I'll definitely upload the script for you guys so you can use it in your worlds. But this is basically how I automated the production of these power flowers. I don't really use these too much anymore because they're just too slow. The way that I make EMC now is I have a dimension using an RF Tools dimension builder that basically produces an infinite amount of blocks that have a high EMC value. I think the one I use is called like Silky Jewel block. I'll show you what it is, and it collects so much EMC that it just basically nullifies this whole system. Over here is my Gaia Guardian killing area that I needed to kill the Gaia a couple of times to get the endgame items I needed to beat the mod pack. And going back through, I wanted to show you finally my mining system. This mining system is very complicated. This system over here is actually different. This is not the mining system. This is the Enderium making system that produces Enderium from pulverized lead and pulverized platinum and resonant ender. This is the Signalum automation system. Actually, this one makes Lumium. This one makes Signalum. These are all resources that you need in order to make things in thermal expansion. As you can see, I'm making quartz-enriched iron, dark steel, Invar, Signalum, resonant and Enderium, Lumium, all these materials that you need in order to get various resources in the game. This over here is my lava production system. I make lava using cobblestone generators, hoppers, and crucibles, and then that lava is used to produce obsidian and various resources, pulverized obsidian, netherrack, all the things I need in the game. And this over here is the actual mining area. This is a tectonic petrothuium system. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a 3 times ore tripling system, and it also gives you some extra outputs using tectonic petrothuium. Tectonic petrothuium is made in this system down here. I produce obsidian dust, and I produce basalis powder, and then all that gets pumped into this sequential fabricator, which makes petrothuium dust, and then the petrothuium dust is cooked in macrocrucibles to make tectonic petrothuium. So it's a very complicated ore tripling system, and then all of that tectonic petrothuium is pumped into these pulverizers with the upgrade, and it turns all of those resources into their respective items, and then those get pumped out and put into the system over here. This is my secondary resource collection area. Basically, all of the items produced from my resources from these machines gets pumped into here and then sent into these neutronium compressors. And this is how you make the singularities to get the infinity catalyst in the Avaricia mod. You basically have to make a ton of these singularities. I also pulled quartz from my refined storage system and use that to make a singularity. One of the cool things that I found was that if you are done, like, you only need one singularity of each type, because once you make the infinity catalyst, you can use EMC to replicate it. So once you have at least one of every singularity, then you can actually turn off the production of singularities, use those items, and pump them into an energy condenser to make more EMC, which you can then use to help speed up the production of all the other singularities. So it's very important to have a plan, I guess, a way of reusing resources. And as you can see, all of these items over here are getting pumped into the system down here, which is my recycling system. Any items that I don't want do not go to waste. They get pumped into this ender chest or into the system, and they get turned into EMC, as you can see here. And anything that cannot be turned into EMC is put into one of these Industrial Craft 2 recyclers, and then the recyclers send the scrap over here where it makes scrap boxes, and then the scrap boxes get dispensed and it gets turned into items that can be turned into EMC or scrapped further. So everything is used, nothing goes to waste in the system. Over here is my induction salt smelter setup. I wanted to use blazing pyrothium to get a 4 times ore multiplication system for specific ores like platinum and nickel and iridium, because these ores are kind of hard to get. So I wanted to try to use those to the best degree possible in the system right over here. And so I get the most out of those ores, but you don't get any bonus output sometimes. So it's a trade-off, right? You get 4 times the ingots, but you don't get the secondary output like you would with these tectonic petrothuium systems. So it all comes down to what you're looking for. Now you might be asking yourself, well, okay, where does he get all of those ores from? Well, this is it. Down here at the very bottom of the world is these void miner setups. Basically, environmental tech added a really cool way for skyblock worlds and for special modded worlds like this one to produce tons and tons of ores, even if they don't spawn. Because in Stoneblock, ores do not spawn. It's just stone everywhere, infinitely stone. And because of that, it's very difficult to produce tons and tons of ores using the clastic deposition upgrades in the igneous extruders from Thermalcraft. So what I found was this mod here, environmental tech added these void ore miners, which are very fast and produce items very quickly, and I can use them basically to produce specific resources, which is really cool because you can give it a specific lens if you are looking for a specific type of resource that you want to be produced. As you can see here, this is like the highest tier one right here, and I have a cyan lens, so it's more likely to produce diamonds. And as you can see, it produces tons and tons and tons of ores, most of which are diamonds apparently, and then those get pumped into my collection system here. And as you can see, I have all of my old ones still working too. So this is like the tier 1 that I used, and all these get pumped into my collection system here. It's actually 2-sided, it's huge. Look how big this system is. Most of these resources come from the Void Botanic Miner, which has been running for a very long time, and also Void Resource Miner. So I have all kinds of ways of getting various resources that you can't get in a specific world like this that doesn't spawn those resources. Because normally you would just go and collect them, but in this world you can't do that. So that's why we have these specific mods in, so we can help automate those processes. It's very useful. And of course there's all these different types of crystals that you need as a crafting material to make higher tiers of these ore miners. So if you ever played this mod pack, you would know that you have to use the ore miners from a previous level to make the next level, and it's actually part of the quest chain too. Over here I experimented a little bit with industrial foregoing laser drills, and I could never quite figure out how to use the system. So I figured out how to make it work, but it was very slow and it wasn't worth my effort, but it was just a little experiment I did. And so that's how I'm getting all of the resources that I'm using to make everything in this game. As you can see, you had to work yourself to higher and higher tiers, and you have to get the highest tier one in order to get enough resources to be able to do the end game things. And so that's pretty much everything in the world. The only last thing I want to show you really is the dimension that I used to get all of the resources. So obviously I have access to all the other dimensions, right? I have the deep dark portal, I have the end dimension, I have the aroma mining dimension. I removed the nether portal because I hated the sound of it. But I have all those dimensions, but you can also make dimensions using RF Tools dimension builders, which is really awesome. And I actually made this dimension, let me see if I can find it, that creates tons and tons of EMC for me. And it's called the Silky EMC dimension, believe it or not. So let's go ahead and teleport to this dimension and see for ourselves. Okay, and so this is a dimension made by RF Tools, powered by huge amounts of redstone flux. It's basically just a huge, gigantic block of Silky block of Jewel, which is a Tinker's Construct block. But what's special about this block is that it's worth tons and tons of EMC. Like one of these blocks right here is worth 224,000 EMC. That's a ton of EMC, and I'm mining it using these RF Tools builders, and I'm getting tons and tons. You can see just how quickly I'm making infinity catalysts using this system. And another thing I found was if you use the watch of flowing time with these machines, it actually speeds them up even more. So this system is really, really, really fast. Like you can just see over here, it's quarrying out the area, and this is how quickly it's mining everything. It's just insanely fast. And so this is just what it's mined out so far. It's just a huge area. And I have 4 of these machines all operating at the same time. So you can see like there's one here, and if I go way, way over here, there's 2 more quarries quarrying out the areas. Like here's another one over here, the huge oil patch. Over here is another one. So this system is just absolutely bonkers. In my opinion, RF Tools dimensions are very overpowered because you can basically give yourself infinite amounts of whatever resource you can want as long as it's in the RF Tools material list, and it's just so broken. As long as you have lots of RF, you can produce whatever you need. And so this is basically the key to me getting to the end game state, was automating this whole process of making these EMC in massive amounts. So this is the key to beating this mod pack. So before I end this this little tour of this world, I just wanted to kind of give you guys some helpful tips in case you're thinking about doing this or you're struggling with any of the problems that you're having in your mod pack world. I just wanted to share a couple tips with you guys so you guys can help smooth out the process and have more fun in these mod packs. I certainly had a ton of fun with this mod pack, automating all these things and kind of puzzling myself with solving various problems and completing the mod pack. It was definitely a very fun process. Starting out with stone, making a crafting table, dirt, and then using the hammers to make the resources, and then automating the resources. Like, it all comes down to one thing, which is automation. You need to automate so many things in this mod pack in order to be able to complete all of these quests. I definitely recommend, if once you start out in a world and you get yourself a couple resources, is you automate something. You automate wood first, because wood is used in all kinds of crafting recipes, and then after that you would automate resources like you see over here. And then once you automate the resources, you can use these resources to automate the production of ores and minerals. And then once you have ores and minerals automated, then you want to automate the production of the crafting ingredients needed to automate more things. And so it's like you're using the previous automation to improve and make the next step a little bit easier. And of course, I use these crafters from Refined Storage to make all kinds of things for myself. Again, I try to make my life as easy as possible when it comes to resource gathering, and I just want to focus on making machines to automate the processes to make the next step easier. So that's my recommendation: is automate, automate, automate. Automate as much as you possibly can. My next recommendation is to get to refined storage as quickly as possible. And the reason why I say this is because refined storage is so useful. I mean, I can have access to any of the items inside of my network from the push of a button, literally using this crafting grid. This system is by far the most important system that I have set up in this Modpack world. It has made things so much easier for myself by having refined storage. And the best part about refined storage is you don't have to store everything inside of these disk drives. You can store things externally in these secondary bins using these external storage connectors. And this is awesome because you can build a system before you have refined storage built. You can organize your resources and materials and then connect them to the refined storage network later on. So if you have a plan in place like I did, and you had the things ready to go for the refined storage edition, you can actually automate quite a bit with refined storage. So definitely take advantage of refined storage or your ME system to the greatest extent possible. It is so useful to have, be able to access anything you need automatically. My next tip for you guys is to try to automate and reduce the amount of effort that you have to do in grindy tasks to the greatest extent possible. So like I mentioned earlier, I made this computer craft turtle that would basically go around and build these power flowers for me, and in that way automating a task that's very, very grindy. And so I encourage you guys to try to find creative ways of automating these grindy tasks to the greatest extent possible, because it really, really makes the mod pack much funner when instead of building power flowers for hours and hours and hours, you're just focused on building the next thing, because the power flowers that create the EMC, the whole process is being automated for you. And so that's how you get the most out of these mod packs. And yes, it is more work and it requires more brain power to be able to program something like a computer craft turtle to do things for you, but the reward is definitely worth it. And so yes, it did take me a long time to make the program. Once I had the program working, which is actually very straightforward, the whole process was very easy. All I had to do was just keep Mike stocked up with resources, and he did the rest for me. And then when he was done, I would just connect it to the refined storage network and set the power flowers to make dark matter, and everything was taken care of. So it was very, very easy for me to automate things using Mike's powers. But definitely, if you ever run into a problem where you need a lot of a specific resource and there is no machine that automates that for you, consider using computer craft turtles. They're actually very nice to have, and although they are very simple and they have issues with like chunk loading, they're very, very nice to have, and they make the process very easy. My next tip of advice is to not be afraid to look online for helpful resources. I ran into a lot of issues when I was trying to complete this mod pack. Like, for example, there would be broken quests that wouldn't be completed, or there are problems with lag that I was running into. Even after the lag improvements that I did do, you can still see it's very laggy in general. But that's just kind of par for the course of this sort of thing. But I definitely recommend that you guys not be afraid to go online and check how to do things. If there is a more efficient way of doing something, or there's a solution to the problem out there, you should definitely try it out. Because if you don't try out other mods and you just do the same thing, it's going to make the mod pack very boring. For example, one of the biggest issues I had was the production of EMC. I just simply could not make enough EMC to meet my needs, even with all of those power flowers over there building. And so I found out, using some videos of other people playing this mod pack, that you can actually make an RF Tools dimension that produces those blocks of Silky Jewel that have a huge amount of EMC value. And so having that advice really sped up the process and made it a lot funner for me to complete this mod pack. I was actually seriously debating not finishing the mod pack because I just could not make EMC fast enough. But after figuring out how to do that, I was able to automate so many things. I was even able to automate the production of infinity catalysts. So that's just a perfect example of being able to have an open mind and try things you've never done before. And of course, that all goes into the last tip I have for you, which is to have fun. Do things that you don't have to do in the mod pack, right? The automation of Meat Feast Pizza was not required at all for the questing, but I just wanted to do it because, hey, Meat Feast Pizza. I love pizza in real life, so why not have my character eating pizza in the world? So I automated it, and it was really fun, and I really had a lot of fun doing that. So I definitely encourage you guys, no matter what, to just try out different things and to not be afraid to do things in a way that would not normally be done. I definitely didn't do things in the most kosher way when I automated all this, but I did it my way, and so I feel great. But I also used advice from other people to make the process a little easier. So definitely find that balance between doing what you want to do as well as using the advice and the helpful tips from other people as well. Alright everybody, so before I finish this little tour, I also wanted to give you guys some statistics about my world, just so you can get an idea of how much time and effort I put into building this world. So in total I put in 15 real life days of effort, which is a huge number of hours I don't want to talk about, into this world. Again, I wasn't rushing to complete everything, I was taking my time, so don't use that as a measure against yourself. I have over 260,000 items stored in my refined storage disks alone, and I couldn't even begin to guess how many items are stored in drawers, but it's probably in the millions. I did a little bit of calculation with EMC coming in from all the sources that I have, and I'm making roughly 1,500 infinity catalysts in an hour, which is about 25 or 26 a minute. And that all comes down to 5.3 trillion EMC per hour. So that's a huge amount of EMC being created. That's absurd amounts of EMC, but you need that in order to build Avaricia tools. It actually takes a little bit of AFK waiting just to build one of the tools because you need so many infinity catalysts in order to build all of the ingots. So it really does take a long time. And then finally, using this RF system behind me, I'm actually using 4.7 million RF per tick, which is a huge amount. Like draconic reactors can make that amount and more, but the fact that I'm powering everything without using a draconic reactor I think is pretty cool. Just using this neutronium solar panels and the redstone system behind me, or the generator system from extra utilities. So this is all just awesome. Like I'm so proud of myself for building such a cool system, and I just want to thank you guys very much for watching this and for giving me your feedback. Feel free to do so down below in the comments section. If you guys liked what you saw, feel free to leave a like if you really liked it, or maybe you want to see more modded Minecraft in the future. Why don't you consider subscribing and leave a comment in the comments section letting me know what you think. So, without further ado, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody.